and it is their time or their turn to talk. And each one is going to tell a horrible, sad story about how their child or their husband, I didn't listen, I only heard one, was killed or was murdered by someone with an AR-15 or assault weapon or whatever the case may be. Okay, so I'm like, I see this one young woman up there, but okay, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to roll the dice. Come on. Roll them out, snake eyes. Turn it on, and here she is whining about how, and because of assault weapons in America and people like Trump that make them possible, my baby was murdered at Uvalde Elementary School, and I will never be able to hold my baby in my arms again. And I'm going like, you know what? If you were somewhere else, terrible story. It is a terrible story. It's tragic. It's sad. It's emotional. It could make you shed a tear. And all things being considered and all things being equal, maybe it should make you shed a tear. But I'm going like, but you're at the Democrat National Circus, sweetheart. And I'm sorry, I do have empathy for you, and we all mourn the loss of life and still do at the Uvalde Elementary School in the shooting. But I'm going like, you're talking about you're never going to get to hold your baby in your arms again. 35 women at the convention where you're speaking have volunteered their babies for tribute and have had them executed in abortuariums right outside the front door. You can't hold these thoughts in your head at the same time. I'm sorry, you can't. I'm supposed to feel empathy and pity and the loss of life? Yes, I do. What about the loss of life that you walked right past the abortuarium where 35 plus children have been sacrificed to Moloch to get in and tell your story? And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry it happened to you, ma'am. But I just don't buy it. And are these people being manipulated by these sinister, these people that call themselves Democrats? They're in high positions of power, and they know that they're emotional over this, and maybe they actually do really have a real problem with people owning guns and what have you, which, I can understand. It's America. You're allowed to think this. What you're not allowed to do is muddy this kind of moral water here. And this is just flat out equivocation here. So that was the least. That was the smallest of the infractions that have already been witnessed on the stage. We tuned one in, and I'm going like, who is this person talking about? And first of all, I had to establish who the person was, and then it was revealed, they're talking about, okay, so now apparently, and Mrs. Church and I had a little conversation here before we went on air. They brought Kamala's goddaughter onto the stage, Mike Parrott. Goddaughter. And I'm going like, wait a minute. I must have missed the part where Kamala is attending Catholic or Christian baptismal rituals, because I know I actually am a godparent, Mike Parrott. I know you are a godparent. Your name is on a baptismal certificate in a parish somewhere. My wife and I's name are on my godson Julian Michael's baptismal certificate. Did you know? Can you not? This woman's she's not a Christian. Don't you have to vow to raise a child and to see to it that they love our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in order to be a godparent?
It's the height of irony. Good evening, Mr. Church, and good evening, Mrs. Church, and everybody in Crusaderville. It's the height of irony that the woman who has refused to reproduce any biological children in her own body would then take the blasphemous title of being a godmother to anybody It's amazing. I have 5 goddaughters, by the way, 5.
Really?
And it's a lot of prayer. It's a big requirement. 2 in Idaho, 1 in Oklahoma, 1 in Michigan, and 1 in Texas. And 5 girls. And I pray for them every single Sunday and hopefully every night as well, but I'm not perfect. The idea that Kamala Harris is a god mother. Which god is she referring to when she says she's a godmother? Is she Hindu? Is she black? What is she? Who does she pray to? Does she pray? I don't know what that means.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. Apparently, the effort has been made. Kamala is all things to all people. She literally is the Vishnu creature with the 6 arms. Did you know that in Hinduism, which her mother was a devout Hindu, we were told, that in Hinduism there are 3 deities. All 3 of them come in the form of, in one form or another, come in the form of a serpent. 2 of them as cobras, and all 3 in some form of the statue are whispering into the ear of the deity that they are putting a spell on or whatever. Did you know that?
I did not know about the serpents. I know about pantheism and I know about Hinduism in general, but I didn't know about the serpents. That's a little scary.
Well, I asked someone who just got a degree in theology about this, and he goes, "Oh, it's Mr. Mike. It's my friend David Simpson's son, Stephen. He's fresh out of Christendom College, Mike, and so he had the answer. He goes, I can tell you exactly what it's all about. They have 3 deities. They don't call them gods. They have 3 deities. All 3 are serpent gods. All 3 are serpent gods." And in India, the cobra is sacred. You're not supposed to. This is why people die of cobra bites all the time, because you don't go. They don't have snake wranglers over there. You know, going around all the cobras up and kill them. But this is the thing that just blows my mind. So now she coached a little league basketball team. Apparently, they brought a little league girls basketball team. You probably didn't know this either. They brought a little league girls, or Maggie, what would it be called for a young girls basketball? It's not a little league. What would you were one? A girls basketball league team that apparently had won some championship or was competing for some championship. They apparently had brought them to the White House for a visit for something, probably because they were going to convert into boys, and they were going to be boys basketball team. That's probably what it was. But they brought this girl, and then apparently now they have a basketball court in the White House, and one of the girls was not feeling so well about her jump shot or whatever. And don't you know, it wasn't Coach Tim, it wasn't Tampon Tim and the Tampanettes, it was Coach Kamala that strode out onto that floor and grabbed that little girl by the straps of the tank top and looked at her and said, "You are better than this. You got this, girl." And then the girl went on to win a championship. She's a godmother. She is a coach. She is the border czar without being the border czar. She is apparently a singer, according to the chicks. She's apparently the AI. They're manufacturing this woman completely and totally. They're just manufacturing this mythology that is Kamala Harris. Do you remember the 1980s movie Weird Science?
I do.
Well, they're making Kamala, the two teenage boys who are trying to make the pinup model out of this chemistry set and what have you. This is what the Democrat Party is doing with AI, and they're making Kamala just like they made the chick in Weird Science. So what you're going to get is Kelly LeBrock, who was a woman in Weird Science, in a bad, ugly pantsuit. But this is a complete and total fabrication. And like Maggie, our producer was saying earlier, she goes, I guess they think that they're actually going to get away with this, and apparently they are going to get away with this. And apparently Americans are expected to just trudge off to the polls and just to go vote on the impression that this creature that has been completely and totally created now in the last 30 days, this impression that this creature leaves upon you.
this is the Barack Obama effect. I know you've been talking about it. I've been talking about it as well. She's getting $2 billion in free media coverage.
I got you. I killed you. I killed your phone.
All right.
I see you in the studio, so I tried to kill your phone. There we go.
All right, I'm on. All right, this is great. This is better. Okay, so she is. Sorry, I was driving earlier. She's getting $2 billion in media coverage. They're going to make her into whatever they want to make her. She is going to become, in the eyes of the American people, she is hip, she is young, she is fresh, she is all these things. What she is not is herself. Who is Kamala Harris? We don't really get to know. She's heels up Harris. She slept away at the top. Willie Brown, all that stuff. But we don't get to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is how young and fresh and hip she is, and she's a canvas. You're exactly right. She is a blank canvas, and they're just projecting onto her who they want us to believe that she is.
Yes. Yeah.
And they can make her into anything and anyone. And she doesn't really have to believe anything as long as she's controllable or controlled, or as long as she's sufficiently liberal. And by the way, she is. And so you even ask her supporters, and I have done this in my life. I meet her supporters all the time because I meet a lot of people every day. That's what I do. And I'll ask them, I'm like, what do you find charming about her? Well, she's bringing joy back.
What is that? What joy?
In my face, they tell me she's bringing joy back. The other thing they say is she's defending democracy. She's defending. Okay, these are bumper sticker platitudes. She has obviously paid a lot of money to get that out there. These are the talking points. These are the memos that gets emailed to everybody. CNN repeats it all day, every day. How is she defending democracy, and how is she bringing back joy? We don't really know, and nobody actually knows.
Well, okay, that's a good question. How is she bringing back joy? I think that we should all be just terrified of this Kamala or Obama effect. The fact that the broadcast news media is capable of actually doing what they've done. They've taken the most despised, lowest rated, the talking heads all couldn't stand her 35 days ago. There's montages out there of the talking heads as late as the middle of June of this year, all going like she's the worst, she's a drag on the ticket, maybe Biden could do better. She's she's a wall fixer in the White House. She's failed at her job as borders are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now all of a sudden, if you employ enough broadcast media, and I've Mike, I've been very clear about this for many, many years about the dangers of social media, and about what have I been telling you people about the dangers of elevating people into positions of importance and nobility and stature who have done nothing to earn it. Because they can get millions of views, all of a sudden they're credible, they're likable. Oh, well, he does do a pretty good job. Okay, well, what's the story? How did this guy go from nowhere, or this girl, to having now 7, 8 million, 9 million followers? And just because there are 9 million idiots out there that chose to follow her or whatever, that's not a life story that is told there. And I have been warning about this and about people in our own movement that have millions of followers. And I go I don't know this guy. I've been in this business for 33 years. Until 2 years ago, I didn't know this guy's name. And I'm not going to mention any names of the guys that are on our side, the right wingers. This is danger. I'm telling you, I have been analog and digital broadcast media for 33 years. I was at the cutting edge, Sirius XM satellite radio. Look it up. Look at the Wikipedia. All right. I was there at the founding. I know a little bit about technology. And I started to get a little frightened about this after I was let go at Sirius, because I saw that I can't compete. My talent is nothing compared to clicks, likes, and hearts and what have you on social media. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what credibility that you bring to the table in any of these fairs. They can all be erased. Yeah, Mike.
Having a following, a social media following, is now it is the substitute for having clout, or having an office, or having an expertise in some area, or maybe even having I don't know, like degrees and credentials and all of those things. The only thing that matters in the eyes of people is how popular a person is and how many followers they have, which is why they can manufacture someone like Kamala Harris, who, I mean,
Exactly.
Yahoo News, front row, Yahoo News, top story, Kamala Harris and the month that changed everything. And they even, in this Yahoo article, they go back and they're like, well, she wasn't really liked. She's never gotten a single vote, not one vote. No one's ever voted for her, except for senator. She's never been voted for in this primary. She dropped out before Iowa.
Right.
Her campaign was a disaster. And now she's somehow the Democratic nominee, and she's going to defend democracy.
Well, is there a honeymoon? Let's bring Mahgdalen Rose in here, the youngest among us, who does cut her teeth on social media. Mahgdalen, good evening to you, first of all, and you've been listening in on the conversation. What do you think?
Well, I think what's really odd is how much the DNC has leaned into Hollywood. I don't know if you saw in detail the Kerry Washington bit with
Yes.
the two young girls teaching her. That is one of the most odd things I've ever seen in politics. Yep. That was a really strange moment. And you could tell they wanted it desperately to be heartwarming. But I can tell you the reaction on social media is not heartwarming. They think it's cringe. They think it's odd. It was such a strange amount of time to dedicate to teaching people how to say her name. Everyone knows how to say her name. And if they don't, it's not that important. They still are going to know her name from Donald Trump's on the ballot. So using that amount of time, they tried to make it look like she's so heartwarming. But if you notice how many people they have to trot out, they have to trot out stepdaughters, goddaughters, nieces, because she doesn't have any children. And that's what happens when you're a political candidate without children. The party has to find all of these young people and say you've had such great impact in their lives. If she's had such great impact in all of these people's lives, then she's had no time to get anything done.
The last president, Mike Parrott, that did not have any children was who?
Oh, I don't know.
James Buchanan. The last time the White House was empty with no children was James Buchanan. So you may just want to noodle on that. Truman had children. Ike had children. Kennedy had children. Nixon had children. Carter had children. Reagan had children. Even the old it's a subject of controversy, isn't it? There are no photographs of Michelle or Big Mike Obama ever being pregnant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no.
But
well,
they did have
okay.
at least they had adopted children.
Well, and look, and I think the entire West is having a crisis of barren leaders. I mean, look at like Macron has no leaders. Angela Merkel has no children. None of these people are at the time. A couple years ago, Theresa May, she was the Prime Minister of England. No children. Italian Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni, was that his name? No children. Holland's Mark Rutte, no children. Sweden's
Olaf Scholz, no children.
Yep, no children. Luxembourg, Xavier Bettel, no children. Scotland, Nicola, what's his name? I don't know, Sturgeon, no children. Jean-Claude Juncker, President of the European Commission, no children. What's going on? Why are we being ruled by an elite group of barren people?
Cat ladies.
Listen, I'm not saying that you have to have 15 children. I'm going to have 15 children. I'm not saying you have to, but if you have no investment in the future, nobody, no progeny, no one to inherit the earth after you, what the heck? How can you be trusted to make long-term decisions if you have no investment in the future?
That's a really good point, because if you have no skin in the game, and if you're giving vasectomies out in front of your convention, if you are sterilizing men so they can't have any children, what? This is the most convoluted. As I said earlier, the Democrats have basically told Satan, hey Lucifer, hey, brah, no, man, take the night off. We got this. We don't need you. You'll screw it up. We got this. Let me go back to Mahgdalen for a moment here. So Mahgdalen, the Kerry Washington bit that you were talking about, and Mike, you probably Maggie, what was the movie that Kerry Washington was in where they aborted the baby on Christmas Day, on Christmas Eve?
Series, and it was called Scandal.
Scandal. Kerry Washington, the woman that the Democrats put up on the stage, was in a movie called, or a TV series called Scandal. At the end of one of the seasons, the finale event or whatever was this woman, Kerry Washington, had an abortion on Christmas Eve. And they had her screaming in pain in the background as the baby is being removed, or through whatever process or whatever. That's who the Democrats threw up on the stage with two little girls, as though this was a great make mommy popular and we love mommy, let's make mommies great again moment here. But Mahgdalen, you're saying that this is not playing well. Now, is that just amongst Charlie Kirk and the gang, or is that among David Boss Hogg and the gang?
No, it's just amongst independent Twitter users. They don't understand what that was about. They think it was cringe. I mean, honestly, it's not even really being talked about within the conservative Twitter. It's one of the things conservative Twitter isn't paying attention to. But young people look at that and are like, that was really cringe. That was really weird. Why did you spend so much time doing that? The whole thing just didn't make sense. But I think the other part of that is Scandal is a show about a secret cabal running the government. So
that's
why
right.
on earth would you have Kerry Washington? I've seen most of Scandal. The whole point of Scandal is that a secret cabal of leaders from all different industries and sometimes all different countries are running the U.S. government, and Kerry Washington is part of it. Yep. So
that's
why
incredible.
on earth would you have her out there as this bastion of fun and coolness? She's part of the problem, pretty much. So it's an odd thing to highlight. But the other part of that is I don't think that a lot of celebrities wanted to be involved in this. I think some did. But if you look at the top celebrities right now, it's not Beyonce. I know Beyonce's the queen of everything.
She's coming,
and the whole
though.
Queen bee thing. She's coming. But I will tell you, in terms of relevancy in the young world, in America, and really in Western civilization, she's not the most relevant celebrity. She's just not. If they had someone like Sabrina Carpenter, for example, or Taylor Swift, or anybody like that, at that convention, I would think it's very current. Beyonce is a woman in her 40s. She's a grown-up. She's not somebody who young people are listening to en masse anymore. And I think that shows a despotism by the Democrats to have celebrities there, and the fact that they can't pull the people they could with Obama at the helm.
Well, I think what they're doing is, Mahgdalen, you wouldn't know it because you're not a basketball fan. You're a gymnastics fan, you're not a basketball fan. Mike, you're not old enough to know it. But back in the 1970s, in the University of North Carolina, patented this thing they called the Four Corners. And you ran the four corners to run the clock out before they had shot clocks. So if you got the ball and you had a 6-point lead and there was 8 minutes left, you would just dribble down the court, go across the half court line, and you just keep the ball. You just keep passing the ball around for 8 minutes and run the clock out. And finally, the NCAA went, all right, no more of this four corners crap. We're going to put the shot clock in. Well, this is what the Democrats are doing right now, the four corners. They're going to try to wait everyone out until everyone is asleep, so no one actually has to see the Comrade Kamala grand entrance. But I want to pick up on what Mahgdalen said, and I just want to let people in on what else is going on here besides what the media is doing, because there is a grand conspiracy behind the scenes. Mike Parrott, this is former CNN anchor and now National Communist Radio hack Judy Woodruff yesterday on Firing Line, or on, it's in McNeil Lehrer NewsHour.
Hearing this directly from anybody, that one thing that the Harris campaign would love is if President Biden would bring home a ceasefire in the Middle East right now between Gaza and Israel. And we know that Secretary of State Blinken is over there right now working with Netanyahu. The reporting is that former President Trump is on the phone with the Prime Minister of Israel, urging him not to cut a deal right now because it's believed that would help the Harris campaign. So I don't know where that, I don't know, who knows whether that will come about or not. But I have to think that the Harris campaign would like for President Biden to do what presidents do, which is work on that one. And maybe there's some other domestic issues that, they'd like to see come home.
David Thury?
Okay. That woman had, wait a minute. Now, wait for it. Now, play Trump today. Someone asked Trump about this in Cochise County, Arizona. If you haven't heard this, folks, this answer is completely and totally shocking, because what they're now doing is they know they're losing. Don't believe any of these polls, and don't believe Mike Parrott either. Kamala's not going to win. They know they're losing. And Trad Pat agrees with me. Trad Pat talked to me tonight. He and I are in complete agreement here. They know they're losing, Mahgdalen. They know they're losing, Mike. They know they're losing, audience. They asked Trump about this. And now, have you heard this, Parrott? Have you heard this?
Look, I'm still on the fence. I'm 50-50. I think that they're going to push her across the finish line. The viewership to the DNC is almost double what the viewership was to the RNC. Now, that doesn't mean much, but it's a data point. Look, all they have to get us to is within the margin of the cheat, and if it's within 10 points, they can push it across the finish line.
I think it has to be closer to 3 or 4 points, but I take your point. Here is Trump when he was asked about Judy Woodruff. Now, now the deep state, not only are they trying to assassinate him, now they're trying to frame him. Listen.
Nominees traditionally get an intelligence services briefing when they become the nominee. Are you getting those briefings now? There was some controversy about that.
Well, I could if I wanted them, but I don't want them because, number one, I know what's happening. They come in, they give you a briefing, and then 2 days later they leak it, and then they say you leaked it. So the only way to solve that problem is not to take it. I don't want it.
Nominees traditionally get an intelligence...
They were giving him briefings. They were placing this intel and giving it to him, and then they were leaking it to people like Judy Woodruff and telling their media hacks to go out and say that Trump is the source. He is the leak of the intelligence, and he is interfering in Biden's foreign policy here. What you just heard is a complete and total abject lie. But this is the deep state now just acting in concert with the actual incumbent.
Okay, so nobody should be surprised, but this is the same party that faked their Google searches, the same party that has faked the unemployment numbers. They have lied about their poll numbers. There's suppression polls happening. I'm not even surprised that they would do something like this. And good on Trump for actually alerting the public to the fact that this is how they operate. They tell you something that's supposedly classified, then they leak it, and they pretend like you're the only person who ever knew it, and so it must have come from you, so they can tie it around your neck.
Yep.
These are the games that they play. And I'm glad that Trump is telling people, I'm not taking the briefings anymore because I don't want to be blamed as the source of the leak. These people have lied about unemployment. They've lied about the economy. They've lied about the rate of inflation. They've lied about their Google searches and their polls and all of it. They're magnificent liars. But this is also why I think, the reason I say 10 points, and I know you think it's 2 or 3 points, and I respect that. The reason I say 10 points is because I think Trump probably won by 10 or 15 points. I really do. I think Trump legitimately won by 10 or 15 points, but they were able to erase that.
Yeah.
It's an astonishing thing, this power that they have right now. So I think the margin of the MOC, the hurdle rate is a lot higher than just 2 or 3 points.
Okay, well, so let me give you Mahgdalen. Did you see the big news today, Mike? You were at a meeting, maybe you didn't catch it. Supreme Court unanimously ruled today that you can't register to vote in Arizona in a federal election if you don't have a bona fide Arizona state residence, federally accepted ID. Okay, so that is, and it went into effect today. So that is going to nuke any new registrations. Now, I don't know what impact that has on who they've already registered, but it'll nuke any new registrations. Mahgdalen.
It definitely will, and I think it's important, especially in a state like that, because Democrats have been gaining on it so much. And this is something that's been happening with a lot of behind-the-scenes work, pretty much led by Ron DeSantis' team because they've secured Florida so much. I mean, it's ironclad there. Is that the Trump campaign has been really naive in how to secure elections. We knew that in 2020. We saw that even in the midterms where there was a lot of questions about fraud. So the Trump campaign, in a good way, has sort of outsourced that. They're not doing it in-house. They've brought on the DeSantis team. They've brought on highly skilled Republican lawyers because I think this time around, Trump knows that he's not good at everything. He's very good at governing. He's not very good at picking people. So he's had people try to help him with that. And he's had to sort of say, and I think humble himself a little bit and acknowledge that his team is not good at securing elections. And a lot of the issues he ran into in 2020 could have been avoided. I remember right after the election in 2020 watching an interview on Fox News, and there was a lawyer, pretty much like a no-name lawyer from Nevada, who said that he had sent so many letters to the Trump campaign telling him and the campaign about what was happening, about the kinds of vote-gathering efforts that had happened, and no one had listened to him. And this is the sort of consequence of that. The Trump campaign has the Supreme Court on their side, and they finally realized that the people within it can't do it, but the people outside it can.
Look at this. They are quadrupling down on Hollywood tonight. This is like the 15th actor or actress. Eva Longoria is now on the stage at the DNC. Leave no bad and washed up actor or actress left behind here. I just want to say something about these conventions here because I've been covering them since 1992. And before that, I was watching them as a spectator in 1980, 1984, 1988. You know, I remember in 1984, Mario Cuomo, the famous haves and have-not speech. There wasn't called a have and a have-not, but this was Mario Cuomo, a young governor of New York who had just come out as a pro-choice Democrat, Catholic Democrat. By the way, he was rebuked by John Paul II to his credit. John Paul II told Mario Cuomo, if you don't retract your signature from Rosemary Reuther's full-page ad in the New York Times, I will excommunicate you. And Mario Cuomo did, but he remained pro-choice. He is the author. Him and Edward Kennedy, Mike, are the authors of I am privately as a Catholic pro-life, but I am publicly, because I represent people who aren't, pro-choice, because I have to represent their interests. But in 1984, Mario Cuomo gave a speech at the Democrat National Circus that set the whole damn thing on fire. And it was basically a ginormous rehash of the New Deal. It was the Great Society didn't go far enough. We didn't take enough from those who have and give it to those who didn't. But my point is that there was policy in that. Cuomo was saying that we as Democrats have to go further in taking what people have earned, what you and Trad Pat were talking about today, Mike. And by the way, this is a $32 bottle of scotch that I'm drinking here today.
It's a quarter of the price of what Trad Pat drinks.
But my point is there was policy. Policy came out of that. In 1980, Ted Kennedy, gave the keynote that introduced Jimmy Carter as the return nominee. This thrust Kennedy into national politics. He was nobody. I mean, he killed Mary Jo Kopechne. Everybody knew that. But he was nobody. He was a senator. He was a Kennedy. He was a brother of a president and an uncle who had been assassinated. But the speech that he gave at the convention was so stirring in policy that it threw him into the top. Mahgdalen, in 1988, at the nominating convention for Michael Dukakis, the keynote speaker on the Wednesday night card was the leader of this new thing, Mike Parrott and Mahgdalen Rose, called the Democrat Leadership Conference, the DLC, Southern Conservative Democrat Governors. Do you know who that guy's name was? It thrust him into the spotlight. It was Bill Clinton. My point is, there's no one that has come out of this shit show that they... Yes, I said that. This crap show that they put on, that's my one parrot for the night. This crap show that they put on, there is no one. There's no Cuomo, there's no Kennedy, and there's no Clinton that's come out of this. This is all window. This is all fake, all of it, Mahgdalen.
It is all fake, and I think the reason for that is because Democrats are not running on policy. About 6 years ago, Democrats realized that if they just run their nominee as a product, pretty much like a new brand of soap or something, that's their best chance because their policies are ridiculous. And they did this with Biden. I watched this happen. And so I researched who was on his marketing board, who was on his branding board. It was literally people from like Procter & Gamble and different major companies. That's who was shaping his image. It's what they're doing with Kamala Harris. They have a better chance because Kamala Harris, although she's not very smart, is not in dementia. So she can remember where she is. So it's easier for them. But that's what they're doing. And that's why there's no breakout stars even like Obama and I believe the 2004 convention, there's not this effort to promote a policy platform because everybody knows they're just marketing Kamala Harris as a product, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. The question is, do the American people want a product again, or are they suffering enough to need policies?
And by the way, the 2004 convention that nominated John Kerry, that's where we all met Barack Hussein Obama. He spoke. He was a state senator from Illinois, and this is what made Chris Matthews say 2 years later, I don't know about this, but when I watch Obama get a thrill running down my leg, this is what made George Clooney then say, hey, Obama, what do you think? I think he's the best candidate I've ever seen. I really do. That was all based on a 2004 speech as then state senator Obama. So there's nothing that came out of this convention, Mike. Not a single person, not a single memory is going to come out of this for the future of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty insightful observation as well, especially when you compare that to the RNC, where at a minimum we have J.D. Vance, who is he's got the imprimatur of Trump, and he's going to be the leader of the conservative movement, or the Republican Party anyway, in 4 years. There's not really an heir apparent who is appointed after Kamala. After Kamala, there's no plan for after Kamala because there will be nothing left after Kamala, I guess. I mean, maybe that's what they're signaling to us. But this vice president, this Tim Walz guy, I mean, with his like kind of blubbering son and stuff. I mean, the whole thing is just kind of weird. And you're right. And nobody thinks that he's presidential. And he's like she chose someone who he looks 25 years older than he really is, and he'll never be her successor, even if she were to cheat her way into the White House. They're not giving headline speeches to Newsom or to Shapiro. Shapiro's not even there.
He's not even there, dude. He's not even in the presence.
Yeah, he's protesting. So all the potentials that could have replaced her are not even present. Hillary Clinton is not speak. She gave a speech on Monday night. She's already forgotten about. I agree with you. There's no breakout young talent, bench talent. But the question is, does there really need to be? Because she could potentially do so much in 8 years from her Stalinist position that we wouldn't have elections anymore. Or that 8 years from now, somebody else could emerge. So I don't necessarily want to say that this is a funeral for the Democrat Party or the end of them, like some people are saying that. I don't necessarily think it's that, but you're right. There's nobody who's like obviously good, the next rising star right now in the Democrat Party.
Well, I'm one of the people that think that, okay, so the Democrat Party was formed in 1836 as a result of the people's hate, his political people's hatred for Andrew Jackson. Martin Van Buren formed the Democrat Party and was the first elected Democrat president. As a matter of fact, he was like the first really elected Democrat. She's no Martin Van Buren. As a matter of fact, the party begins with Martin Van Buren. I could see it actually ending with her because, as Mahgdalen said, they figured out they don't need policy anymore. When they do mention it, it's the same old retread, neo-socialist, neo-Stalinist, whatever you want to call it. This is the New Deal on steroids. They just changed new to green. It's the Keynesian economics. Just take from the people that have it and give it to those that don't. The wealth transfer scheme. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing new here. The thing, though, that I want to go back to what we started with the show with, the coverage with tonight, and that's this. That ought to alarm you. That should scare the crap out of you. That means literally that Max Headroom can be elected president. Are you old enough to remember who Max Headroom is? You don't know. Magdalene, do you know who Max Headroom was?
Nope.
Google it, and you're going to be shocked. He was the first ever AI character.
Oh, yeah, I knew him.
He was on MTV. He didn't actually exist, and he went Max And he was an animated character, and people had Max Headroom t-shirts, and they would go around doing Max Headroom impersonations. Max Headroom was not an actual person. Max Headroom was a computer animation from Skywalker Ranch. George Lucas helped create Max Headroom, and they put this character on where you could have President Max Headroom now. You could literally have an AI generated character here that could actually, you do have. You have an AI generated creature called Kamala that is now running for the presidency. Now, let's talk practical stuff that's going to happen tomorrow. Trad Pat is going to Phoenix. He is going to be our man on the ground. Right before we went on air, Trump Vance 2024 sent an email out saying that you all need to make sure that your media are all here tomorrow afternoon at my rally at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. We are going to have a very, very special guest. Now, I read it and I'm going like, well, I know who the special guest is. It's going to be Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. And you know this because they sent, Trad Pat told you this today, Mike. You and Trad Pat talked about this. There's no way that Nicole Shanahan went out and said what she said without the full and complete and total blessing of RFK Jr. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're both going to be in Phoenix at the same time, in the same place, same time. I mean, yeah.
So, how does this go down? This is the question now. Does this go down that RFK Jr., and maybe he brings Nicole Shanahan in on this, says that I am suspending my campaign for the presidency. I am endorsing Donald Trump. I'm endorsing President Trump. Our campaigns are going to combine forces and resources, and we are going to work together to defeat Harris and Waltz, and then to bring in a new era of politics and policy in Washington, D.C. I said this earlier on the last segment of the Mike Church Show today, Mike Mahgdalen. See if y'all agree or disagree with this. This, to me, is a win for the Kennedy-Shanahan campaign. They probably never had a shot at Democrats because the Democrats were never going to let them in. There is no history that independents can ever win the White House. Teddy Roosevelt tried the hardest. John Anderson in 1980 got, 11% of the vote. Ross Perot got 13%. No independent has ever won. You have to be with one of the two parties since Martin Van Buren in 1836. So the Kennedy path to victory was always very slim, but this would be a complete and total victory for Kennedy's movement, if you will, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is offered HHS secretary or gets to pick who it is, and Nicole Shanahan gets to pick who is the head of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or they get to go in and gut the board, or maybe even bring in the National Institutes of Health, whatever, the things that Robert Francis Kennedy has been fighting for. He released tonight a video. He didn't have to. An 11-minute long clarification on his stance on vaccines. This all is being set up to me that it's going to be Trump, Vance, Kennedy, Shanahan, and I don't think that Nicole Shanahan, Magdalene Rose, is a bad person to have on your ticket or on your kind of your surrogate team.
No, she's not. And what's really good about her is that she's very clued into new money. The Republican Party exists in a lot of ways with old money donors, but she's in the tech world. She can bring in that kind of fundraising, and they're going to need it because I don't know if you saw today, but Tim Walz met with George Soros' son and Huma Abedin, who is engaged to George Soros' son, as if we didn't need more of that. So the amount of money that's going to be poured into them is going to be insane, and we have to combat that in some way, and the only way you can do that is by going to new areas of finance. And that's the Silicon Valley world, and she can open those doors for them.
Now, if y'all are wondering if we're ever going to go to the floor of the Democrat convention, not unless Kamala Harris goes up there, because I'm not going to expose this audience and my airwaves to the satanic rotten filth that has been spewed up on that stage. Beyonce hasn't even come up yet. Now, Mike Parrott, there was a big rumor that one of your Texas heroes, George H.W. Bush, was going to show up this convention night and speak. Did you see that?
No, I missed that. But I wouldn't be surprised. I did see the rumor that said that Mitt Romney was supposed to be the special guest tonight. Now he has denied that, so I guess we haven't seen Romney at the Democratic National Nominating Convention, so that's fine. The thing on the RFK, if you'll permit me just for a second, I think RFK could actually be helpful. People are like, well, he's not going to get any points and it doesn't matter or whatever. Well, if he can get 11,000 votes in Arizona, that could matter. If he could get 10,000 votes in Georgia, that could matter. Yep. Are there 10,000 people in Georgia that like him? I think that's probably true. I think there probably are. So, and would all 10,000 of them follow him into Camp Trump? Maybe 8,000 of them do. I mean, it helps enough on the margins in places that matter so much that, I mean, it could very well be very seismic to the election if we see RFK and Donald Trump standing together tomorrow in Phoenix.
Now, what if they are standing together, and what if on November the 6th, the Democrats, the mail trucks are backing up at the Cobo Center in Detroit. Again, the mail trucks are backing up and dumping at the State Farm Center in Atlanta. The mail trucks are backing up and dumping hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of ballots, literally 700,000 ballots at Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. They're backing up in Madison, Wisconsin. They're dropping them off there. And so, you see the seeding of the clouds. All the ballots are still being dumped. And everyone knows that Trump, Vance, Kennedy, Shanahan look like they have a 410 vote electoral landslide. But the Democrats are going to wipe this out. Do you think that there would be a civil, what's the word? Engagement. Yes. Do you think?
I mean, look, and Trump has made overtures as well to Elon Musk. Imagine, he already tells the American people he's going to put Kennedy in charge of the CIA. He's going to put Musk in charge of economic matters. He's going to put Shanahan in charge of something. She's a billionaire. And then they still have the rug pulled out from under them. And again, I don't know if we're live on YouTube or not, so I'll couch my language. We didn't see it in the last go. We haven't seen it for the last 30 years. I have to tell you, Mike, and maybe this is an unpopular take. We're like frogs slowly boiling to death. We're not. I just don't think that we're going to wake up and do anything about it. Really, I think they can steal it in the open. They did it already. I think they could be more blatant about it. I think that's why they are being more blatant about it, because they're stretching our minds. They're stretching the Overton window, and they're just like, look, we're acting with impunity. And you can't do anything about it. And this is what communists love to do. Yes. They love to rub your nose in it. They love to be lawless in public and rub your nose in it just to convey how hopeless your cause is to try to do something about it.
But the point, okay, let me drill. I'm going to drill down. Let's drill down on this. Wouldn't that make, then, the federal electoral politics completely moot? Why would you then ever participate in them again? What utility would Washington, D.C. have other than a cash machine, a laundering operation? If you're a receiver state, meaning you take more back than you pay in, what utility does Mordor and the Potomac then have? I don't see that it has any. And I don't know that the state legislatures and the people that run them are going to be the ones that are going to make this decision, because there may be enough angry, pissed off people to where, Samuel Adams had it right. Doesn't take a majority. It takes a well-animated, very small mob committed to something. The Democrats do it all the time. The homos did it with 2% of the population, didn't they? 2% of the population, and they took over. They ended the Boy Scouts. 2%. So I don't see what then, for people like me, and I'm a historian and a conservative and have been, and I've looked at, and I can tell you the history of both the wars, 1776 and 1861. I don't see the utility then, or why you would then need a federal Leviathan over you. At that point in time, then the federal Leviathan is going to have to become some sort of a communist dictatorship. They're going to have to go like, no, you're opposition, Mr. Church, and you're never going to be seen from again. because that's what they did in Russia. That's what they did in China. They tried to do it in Spain. Had it not been for the glorious revolution of Franco, they would have gotten away with it. So they did it in Mexico. They killed, and had the Cristeros not stood down, maybe Mexico would be Catholic again. Maybe it wouldn't be socialist. Maybe there wouldn't be cartels. So I don't. There are people out there that just. I'm not alone in this. There are millions of people. Eric, your friend and mine, Eric Sammons. Eric Sammons thinks that secession is the only way out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, what utility does federal politics serve? What utility does voting serve? This is a question that I deal with, and I grapple with it, and I go back and forth. And sometimes you'll hear me talking about how voting in the federal election is really just tantamount to participating in the Freemasonic sacrament. They don't care for whom you vote so long as you do vote. It is the Freemasonic sacrament of our Freemasonic sort of society and that sort of thing, and that it's all a charade, and it has been, at least since LBJ was stealing elections. But then again, I go back and forth and I grapple with it, and then the better part of me, and I do the Pascal's wager, and it's like, well, okay, what if my vote does count and I didn't vote because I talked myself out of it, and then my not voting led to a greater evil and stuff. And so I'm like, well, I've sort of settled on this position for now, and I don't know if this is my real position forever or not, but this is kind of where I'm at. And that is that, look, there's a chance that they're going to try to steal it. There's a chance that my vote doesn't count, but there's also a chance that it does count. And there's a chance that my vote really is going to matter, especially where I live in the flyover country, where we can't have any screw ups. And so as long as I vote, but as long as I'm sufficiently dispassionate about it, and I'm disconnected from it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to become fully invested in it, but I'm going to cast the vote because I'm gonna do the thing that I need to do. But if they end up stealing it, I'm not going to be totally surprised because I'm detached from it, Christian detachment. I don't know if that's the most reasonable position, but that's where I'm at on it right now.
What if, like in communist China, though, it doesn't matter? What if your neighbor rats you out? And even though you dropped out, you had nothing to do with it, and you're like, hey, man, neutral, big, tall, bald guy with dog who showed up at my house, friends. BFFs, bud. No altercation here. No, man. Living best life here. I'm not going to public. What if they come and they start finding people? I think one of the things that when they change people's lives, read Lasek and Posovic's book on humans, or read any decent history of the communist revolution in Soviet Russia, and you will be absolutely shocked, because Tsarist Russia was a caste society. It sucked if you were anywhere below this level. So if you were here on down, it sucked. If you were here, this little sliver here, everything was fine. But you still did have opportunity. And that's what the Soviets came in and did. They lied and said, no, we're going to take all of their property and we're going to give it to you. And you're going to be in charge, and you're going to run the business, and you're going to run the farm, and all that was a lie. That was how they got in the door. The Democrats, Mahgdalen, aren't even attempting to do that anymore. They're not even promising wealth redistribution anymore.
No, they're not attempting to do it anymore. They're really just pushing forward. And in my view, I think that Democrats have entered this weird area in time where they don't really have a focus. And that's an issue, because as much as we've talked about them running everyone as a candidate, as a product rather than a policy platform, if you don't have a future with anything, if you don't have any clear understanding of what to do, you get in a place where you're grasping at straws. And you mentioned how it's one celebrity after another. I think that their bench in a lot of ways will be celebrities. It will be those people. It will not necessarily be a rising star on the political side. You mentioned there's been no rock star to come out of this convention, and I think that's true. And there really wasn't in the last convention either, the one before that. But what we have seen is that there are certain celebrities who want a bigger future. So someone like Mindy Kaling, for example, has been at the DNC convention, been doing a lot of promo for Democrats in general. She has a huge following. The celebrities that you see at this convention, I think, should be the people we look for to be the next nominees if Kamala doesn't win. Because those people are people who draw a massive crowd and are already well-versed in being marketed as a product rather than a policy platform.
I think that they may be getting ready to bring her on because this Kamala video has been going for 5 minutes now. This is
ideals, but we will die trying because we love our country. We believe in our country. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us, trying to pull us apart. We know what we stand for, and we stand for the people, and we stand for the dignity of work, and we stand for freedom. We stand for justice. We stand for equality. And so we will fight for all of it.
That's who Kamala Harris is. That's what she believes.
So, Mike Parrott, they sent her out to Raleigh, North Carolina with that text specifically to spout these lines off so they could make this video. That was not a rollout of an economic agenda. That was a publicly recorded live version of Kamala where she had practiced and rehearsed it. And because I'm watching this going like, well, she just did most of this 2 weeks ago. So, and that's how they use the media.
Please welcome the Democratic nominee for president, Vice President of the United States.
Oh, okay, we're going to get her. Here we go.
Harris.
And that's it. That's all you get. I think you're muted.
I looked at I think as detestable as her commentary has been, and I'm glad you cut it because I was just dying. I think a lot of people are going to find it to be charming. I think that she spent 15 minutes in the build-up talking about her childhood and her mother and her divorce and her aunts and uncles that aren't even related to her, and that is the lived experience of so many Americans. And she, I think, is going to make a pretty good connection to a lot of people. I hate to say, look, I'm not trying to be the naysayer or the downside, but I think that she did a pretty damn good job of laying out who she is and where she comes from. And yeah, she lives in the Bay, but also she lived in Wisconsin, and apparently she lived in the Midwest, and she lived in Michigan, and she got those crowds, from those states clapping. Look, when I was a child, I lived in Ohio for 6 months. Does that mean if I run for president, I can say, oh yeah, I used to live in Ohio as a baby? But that's what she's did. That's the argument that she's making. And she is basically reinventing herself in front of all of us. And she's tying in Michelle Obama's speech, and she's tying in all these other speeches.
She tied in Hillary. She put in Hillary. She took lines from Hillary.
And here she is. This is who she is now. Now, that's not who she is a month ago, but this is who she is now. And I'm telling you, Mike, she's formidable.
Well, I don't say that she's not formidable. This is a honeymoon phase here. And again, this speech will fade. And then there will only be the memory and and then the Sony Betamax tape of this speech. She can't go out and campaign on it and she can't go out and talk to anyone, actually, because she's incapable of it. So there will be a debate, and Trump will get to question her. But she went with what she said from that podium are just bald-faced lies. I'm not going to sit here and broadcast the accusation again that on day one we're going to have Generalissimo, and not Franco because he was a good guy. We're going to have Comrade Stalin, and he's going to use the United States Armed Forces against all the enemies and have them rounded up and put into camps and what have you here. And all of the other lies that have been told, because it's not true. It would be irresponsible of me, unless I wanted to just play commentary and just continue all night long going, well, that's, and fact check, which I don't want to do. I'd rather just say, you know what, if you want to watch the damn thing, they'll post it on YouTube tomorrow, you watch it. I'm not broadcasting it on my air. Just like I decided tonight on Zionist night at the RNC, I didn't broadcast it either. I pulled the plug on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, okay, so what is she accomplishing tonight? she's humanizing herself. She spent 20 minutes humanizing herself.
Yes.
Because the most important thing, and I think Mahgdalen Rose, I don't know if she's still here, but she made the point, and it was brilliant. It's not about a policy; it's about a product.
Yes.
And she's selling herself as the product, and so she has to sell herself as, I was brought to this country. My mother's amazing. We tried to cure cancer. We were poor. My dad left us. We lived in the Midwest. We went back to California. I wanted to be a lawyer because of these noble reasons, and I was a great lawyer. And then once she builds all that up, she contrasts that with Trump. She's like, I'm a prosecutor. He's a rapist.
A criminal. He's a rapist.
Yeah. And that's the message, and she nailed it. That's the message of her campaign, and she hit it. Now, whether or not it's going to work, I don't know, but she hit it.
Well, that's the Democrat message, and it has been the Democrat message. And prior to the Kamala honeymoon, the Democrat message wasn't working, was it? Biden was running out saying the same thing, screaming and hollering at crowds and accusing him of the same thing with Elizabeth Warren and whoever else he would drag out there. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't working for Biden. The only reason it's working for her is because she's new, fresh, and original. But she's not new, fresh, and original. She's been there for 4 years. Somebody made the point today, and I'm going to make this point. She is actually running as though Trump is the incumbent. Yeah. This is a masterstroke in brainwashing and propaganda, folks. They are presenting her as the outsider. She is not currently the vice president. She has no political power whatsoever. She is the diminutive, poor, discriminated against, brown-skinned woman who has to fight her whole life against evil white guys like Trump. And if you'll just get her a chance, she'll fix all the world's problems. It's evil white guys like Trump that are in power. And when we give, and then they very coyly slide in, if we allow him to come back into power, or however it is they say it. So they do kind of reset, but it's not enough to undo that. He's the incumbent. She is the challenger. She's the challenger. He's the guy that has to be defeated because things are going the way he wants them to go right now. I think this may be the greatest mind F in the history of the world. You are actually going to, the gambit is, can you convince 90 million people, and that's what you got to do, 90 million souls that you are not currently the vice president, that you have no role in official policy, that you are not responsible for anything that your own administration has done, that you are actually an outsider and have never had political power, and that you are campaigning for it for the first time in your adult life. And that this guy has had power and he abused it, and he's still controlling things even though he's not in power. That's how powerful he is. They are making her out to be the underdog.
You're 100% right. It's astonishing to me. She's saying, if you would just elect me to high office, I can do all these changes. From the White House, she's saying this. She's the vice president of the United States. The president is incapacitated. She might as well be the president for all I'm concerned. And she's just saying, if you would just give me power, I could do all these things. Meanwhile, she has all the power. She's there. But this goes back to the idea. Well, there's so many problems. Women shouldn't be. My view. Women shouldn't be voting.
This is the Carrie Lake problem.
It's a lot of problems, and people and the American public is so gullible and so. And by the way, Mike, you know this. I think a lot of people don't even come online, and they don't even start paying attention to this till September. So a lot of this is like us who are hyper focused on it. We're paying attention to it. The American people are so uninformed, underinformed. I would say negligently underinformed, that they're just going to be like, oh yeah, she's the disenfranchised and she's the outsider or whatever. They're not even going to think to themselves, wait a second, she's already there. She's already in power. Why doesn't she do the things she wants to do?
Maybe she should move. Maybe she should move back to California and tell Joe, I'm out. I'm hitting the campaign trail. You're on your own, buddy. You're not going to see me here because I can't have any photographs of me leaving this house, this White House here. It is almost as though like, I'm not vice president. Oh, no. If Joe were to die tomorrow, pick Pelosi. No, not me.
Yeah.
I don't look. People are stupid. They're gullible and all that. I just don't. You know what, Mike? I just don't want to lose my faith for my children's sake in the capacity of men to at least some of them to not be dumbasses and do the right thing. For this to be pulled off, you have to have so many. You have to have so many tens of millions of people for an extended period of time. This doesn't have to happen for a day. Fool me today, call me a fool. Call me a fool. Fool me again tomorrow, or however the thing goes. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They have to extend this for 80 days, or for at least 70 days before absentee ballots and all that. Can you run the clock again? Four corners. Can you run the clock out? Can you run the clock out on this? And what if people aren't actually watching this?
Look, I think that's exactly what she's trying to do. She comes out, she's kind of cackling like she normally does. She's probably half drunk. She gives the life story of herself. She tells the same platitudes, and she gets the hell off stage. She's not going to talk for an hour and a half the way Trump did. Look, when you and I covered the Trump speech, I almost fell asleep. It was so late. It was so long. It was so rambling. She's probably off the stage already.
No, she's still there.
The strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
Oh, now she's pro-you.
I will fulfill our sacred obligation to care for our troops and their families, and I will always honor and never disparage their service and their sacrifice.
Again, another dig at Trump. You're in the White House. You know what? You did disparage the troop. You and your blasted effing freaking president discharged, 80 some odd thousand members of the United States military because they refused to take your vaccine.
Yeah.
This, to say this to the, people that are plugged in that are military guys, they're not going to buy any of this bullshit. Yeah. People that are supporters of military families and are just generally good, make America great again, and respect people, men like you that served, and J.D. Vance and others, also aren't going to buy this because they know what happened. Look, COVID, a lot of people, when your uncle who was in the U.S. Air Force Reserve or the United States National Guard Reserve was told, no, you have to take the jab mandate or you're out. Mm-hmm. I'm reserved, dude. Doesn't matter. You got to do a double jab mandate or you're out. Well, screw it then. I'm out. Well, they're going to No, you don't want to do that. They're going to dishonorably discharge you, like they tried to do to you, right? Yep. That bull crap that we just heard is not going to. I will always defend. No, you had the chance and you didn't. You went along with Joey B. The entire administration was making the lives of the military men and women, the enlisted, an absolute holy living hell. At least a third of the men of the enlisted resisted the jab mandate. Is that number right, or were there more?
I think there was a high number of people who resisted to a point, but then a lot of them capitulated. But it was a purging.
How many are resentful?
I think the resentful number is very high, and I think the regret number is equally high. And I think
regret that they took it?
Yeah, regret that they took it. Yeah, absolutely.
So she's not going to get a pass on this BS that I'll be your greatest VA president in history.
No, the military is not going to support Kamala. They're just not. But then again, the military has already kind of been purged. Now, yeah, and recognize the fact that, look, we're a nation of 350 million people. We have a couple 100,000 Marines. We have basically 500,000 in the active duty component of all the branches of service. So it's a relatively small number of people who are on active duty right now. A lot of them have been purged out, including the people who would never turn their weapons on civilians, like yours truly, and including the people who would never blindly follow the orders of a communist president, because we would consider that to be an enemy, domestic enemy,
right,
including yours truly. So look, I don't. She's saying military sounding stuff. I think just to sort of placate the crowd and to sort of like it's a duty of anyone running for president. You are commander in chief. That is one of the offices of the presidency. So I think she's just paying lip service to it.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that she's going to get much out of it.
Well, they're giving her golf claps now. Gruesome Newsom just went. Literally, she got a par on a par 5 at Pebble Beach that's 410 yards long. And Gruesome Newsom just went, yeah, that's impressive. Great. Here.
Because, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself.
The frick? How did autocrats get in a room?
I will never waver
a Transformers
in defense
movie?
of America's
Autocrats.
security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand, and I know where the United States...
This is not going to work. Okay, anyone that's watching this bitch is scowling and screaming like Biden.
Mm-hmm.
She's scowling and, I know the difference between democracy and tyranny, and me and Corn Pop are going to take it to them. And you can see the crowd went from ebullition to go like, what's going on here? Why are you yelling at me, bruh? Why are you yelling at me? Okay, so again, as I predicted, 0.0 policy. There's no proposal in here to do anything. It's all anti-Trump. Trump now, Mike Parrott, is Franco. The only question that remains is, are there enough Catholic and Christian prayer warriors to pray Generalissimo Trumpo over the finish line, and we can install some fascism here in this country and fix things?
This is the question of our time.
Did I pose a good question? That was a good question, wasn't it?
It's a great question. No. This is a poignant question, because we have seen people who have successfully run for office now as the anti-Trump. Biden didn't run as Joe Biden. No one ran towards him. No one thinks he's a Mensa member, even though he claims to be
a Mensa member. By the way, yours truly is a Mensa member.
Are you really?
Yes, just saying.
Man, I'm not surprised by that at all, by the way. So Biden ran as the never Trumper, as the anti-Trump, and he quote unquote won. The question is will that work again? Now Trump sort of ran as the anti-Hillary, to be honest. I mean, like if Trump wasn't running against Hillary, let's say Trump was running against some other normal, typical bench Democrat, I'm not so sure that he would have won. So I think running as the anti-candidate since 2016 has been fairly effective. And this is another reason why I look at her as she's not really offering anything other than he's bad and I'm not bad.
I'm less bad.
We'll see if that works.
By the way, when I applied to the Mensa Society in like 1993 or whenever it was, we had You've Got Mail. We had America Online. You actually had to take the test. You had to take a written test. You had to take it. You had to go to a place, and they handed it to you, and you had an hour to take it. It wasn't hard. People think I mentioned that. Just no, the IQ test is not what you think it is. You would probably score higher than I did. I mean, I got in by 3 points. I was 3 points away from not making it. But no, she's not a Mensa. I don't know. Maybe she is a Mensa. Biden's definitely not a Mensa candidate. You actually have to be able to solve problems to be a Mensa candidate. You actually have to be able to look at things and logically go like, well, no, if you turn the spoon that way, the water's going to spray all over the place. That won't work. In any event, final thoughts here, and then I'm going to let you go because you got to record a show in the morning, and Maggie and I got to do one, and she's exhausted. Final thoughts here, and we're not even at. I mean, she's wrapping up.
Ability that comes with the greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's the greatest privilege on earth, then why have you let 20 million people in here who didn't legally pursue it? I mean, none of this can stand any critical examination, critical thinking, critical questioning. So, will people buy it? Yeah, there will be a number of people that will buy it. She's done. She's just wrapped up. She just said thank you. I just did pass my lip reading class. It's not, again, nominating speeches, not the end of the world, beginning of the world. I think you nailed it, Mike. I think you're right. She told the biography story. That had to be told. And then I think that she came out and then she told the story. After she told the biography story, she didn't tell the Americans a damn thing of what she was going to do, other than what she was going to stop the opponent from doing. And now, is that enough to win? You know, maybe sometimes it is. We're in an economic crisis. Things aren't going well. The world is in turmoil right now. People's finances are upside down. You can't lie about that. You can cook all the books you want. People still got to pay bills. They got to write checks. They got to go to the grocery store. All these things matter. The illegal aliens are still out there marauding and murdering. You can't just say that that's not there. So can all the speechifying and AI and media resuscitation, can it drag this most awful of awful candidates in the history of presidential electoral politics over the finish line? I'm going to stick with what I said. I'm going to go contra Mike Parrott. I will bet my house against his that it does not happen. Because I cannot, and I'm happy to lose my house in an instance, because if it does, I'm not going to need it anyway. Because they're going to come and take it from me. So you can have it, and you can be the owner when they come and take it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we both bet our houses, but if we both lose, our houses are worth nothing. Yeah,
I'm going to give you a worse sentence. I'm going to make you president of the Crusade Radio Network. I'm going to wager the channel. If she loses, if she wins, he's in charge. I quit.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, if she wins fair and square, I mean, right? Yeah, but she's got to win fair and square. So I think it was a deliberate choice to have absolutely no policy announcements whatsoever in the acceptance speech. She didn't say what she's going to do. She didn't say what she wants to achieve. No legislative goals, no international or treaty goals. She didn't talk about the wars going on in Ukraine or the Mideast or anything like that. The only thing she talked about was tugging on the heartstrings with, I'm Indian and I'm black and I have a single mother and my dad left and I lived in these states and this is who I am and we got to stop the orange man because the orange man is bad.
He's bad.
And that's the message. And I think that's a smart message, honestly, because everybody knows her policies suck. Nobody wants them. Now she's got to backtrack from it. She says she's going to seize, intellectual property, that she's going to tax unrealized gains, that she's going to do all these things. She doesn't want to talk about that on her big night. She's got 20 million people tuning in, and what she wants to convey to them is, look, I'm not just a hoe that slept my way into office.
She a hoe.
That's right. And so I think she did that. Look, people are going to say Mike Parrott is a fan of Kamala Harris. I'm not. I'm afraid of her. I hate her. I think she's horrible. But she's doing what she's got to do, and she's going to win.
Okay. All right. I don't disagree with any of that. By the way, did you catch the cap? You got to get you one of these.
I got to get the cap. I got.
You got to get a make American
live radio great again.
American talk radio great again. I don't disagree with your analysis or anything. I agree. I disagree with the conclusion because I don't think that she will. I said this on the air today. You probably weren't listening. I said, let me tell all you Parrott heads and Jeff Schaefer heads. Let me tell you that Mike Parrott and Jeff Schaefer were around in 2016, and Trump was not going to only lose, he was going to lose in a landslide. The day of the election, 91% chance, New York Times, Las Vegas poll, odds maker. I was interviewed by our morning show host, Mark Kreslins, at the time. I was midday. And he said, Mike, what do you think? I think that Hillary wins 34 states, but she wins 310 electoral votes, and this is a pretty easy night for her. And I said, Mark, no. Trump is going to win. He's going to shock the world, and Hillary is going to be defeated. And Mark Kreslins, the political affairs correspondent and lifelong Republican Party activist and pollster, and he worked for a couple of governors and congressmen as a staffer or chief of staff, was flabbergasted. Well, how can you say that? You know what I told him, Mike? I said, on my way in here this morning, I was praying the rosary, and I looked up, and it was dark and cloudy and nasty. And I looked up, and I asked Mother Mary, Mother, will you spare us? What's going to happen? And out of all this darkness, all of a sudden the clouds broke and the sun shone. And she said, yes. And I said, so I have it on good authority. A Jewish girl from Nazareth told me that Donald Trump was going to win. And he was flabbergasted because he was a Protestant evangelical. And he was like, that's not science. I'm like, tomorrow morning, Donald J. Trump will be POTUS 45.
Oof.
I'm sticking with my prediction. November the 6th, Trump will be POTUS 46. And I'm going to tell you the diabolical part of this. They actually want this to happen because they are actually going to do all of the things to him that they tried to do him in term one. We're going to give you your one election, and we are going to destroy this guy. He won't make it to the midterm elections. He will be impeached. We'll get rid of him. I think that they will completely and totally shut down, talk about false flag operations and what have you, the government of the United States, ultimately to put who they want in power. Because you got to remember, at the end of the day, it's all about power. They don't care who the person is. They don't give a crap. This stuff is all run from the pits of hell. And if the guy that's running it is not from the pits of hell or is not from speaking terms with the pits of hell, then they got to get rid of him. And maybe they make an example out of him. But, you said something earlier, and I agree. This is the pivotal moment here. We're going to talk religion for just a moment. I'm going to let Parrott go to bed, Maggie too.
Thank you.
Father Stephen LaForte came here today, Mike.
Oh.
He came here with Bishop Joseph Masick. Do you know Bishop Masick?
Only by name.
Well, I got to kiss the ring. I met Bishop Masick. I got his blessing. We talked theology for about an hour. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot from my Sedevacantist friends about Sedevacantism. I'm not hostile to them. They're my brother Catholics. We have a disagreement. I think it's a terrible disagreement, but they're my brother Catholics. And I love them, just like I love anyone else. And I don't have anything bad to say about any of them. They come to their own truth as they do, and I am comfortable with that. But Bishop Masick and I talked about Father Malachi Martin. He knew Father Malachi Martin.
Okay.
And he knew He knew Bishop McKenna, he knew Ralph Sarchi, he knew Father Malachi Martin, and he knew about that exorcism that happened on Long Island in the early 1990s. And we talked about the end of days and about whether or not in the Catholic Church right now is the book of Revelation being fulfilled, and are we living in the time of Antichrist? Now, I never heard you talk about this, and I don't know what you think about it, but I heard a pretty compelling argument that we may be either in or near the time of Antichrist. But one thing is for certain, the enemies of the church are ascendant and are in at least control of the hierarchy right now. And that does not bode well for the rest of the world. Now, they can't ever hold power for very long. They've had it for a couple of times in the history of Christianity since 3:15 p.m. on March the 25th, 33 AD. They've had it for a couple of times. They've always lost it, right? And the church has always arisen from the ashes. Same thing is going to happen this time. I think that we're at the peak now of as bad as it can get, unless it's going to Antichrist. And I told Bishop that, and he didn't disagree. What if Trump is the new Constantine? What if, with surrounded by all these Catholics, even though he's not one himself, and there really isn't a lot of evidence that Constantine ever was a good Catholic. He certainly had the leanings, and he certainly was friendly to the church, right? Historically speaking. What if Trump is the guy that just does just enough and runs just enough interference and puts enough bad guys at bay so that that underbelly of faith and the good, the true, and the beautiful, and the people out there can actually rise back and be, the evil can be dispersed. The evil that was Tertullian and all of the Roman emperors that murdered and martyred so many people, they finally put an end to that. Maybe Trump is the guy that puts an end to this phase, and maybe then the rebuilding of a good Christian American, because we don't have one now. You'd have to build it, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope that Trump is Constantine. I hope that he is. I pray that he is. I'm probably the most critical of Trump of anybody here at the Crusade Radio Network. It's a common refrain on Parrott Talk that I just trash this guy. But I hope that he's Constantine, and he could be Constantine. He's surrounded by the right people. He's got the right people praying for him. I pray for him. You pray for him. All of the Crusade Radio Network is probably praying for him. He could be that. And if he is, I'll eat my hat. I'll be so happy. I will be the first person to say it. I will be, you know what? I'll be like, hey, church, you called it, man. The King dude called it.
Again, he called it.
And I would love that. I would love that. And it could actually be true. And look, eschatology, I kind of stay away from it because there's so many different views on what could possibly happen and what could be happening and whatever. And maybe Trump is going to be appointed by God to do something really fabulous for the church. I hope that's the case. And if it's not, it's not. And we don't place our hopes in princes and principalities and powers and all this stuff and
Good
stuff.
point. That's right.
But and I know you're not doing that, and I'm not doing that, and I know nobody out here who's listening to us is doing that. But nevertheless, you can do both things. You can walk and chew gum. You could say, hey, I'm not going to put my hope in this guy, but I also do hope that, and I pray for his conversion, and I think that he could be Constantine, and if we could do that, we could rebuild Christendom. And you're right. In the most wild, crazy irony in all of Western civilization, we, the United States, that have no patrimony, no connection to Christendom, no real traditions, we don't really have a culture, in my opinion. We don't have all these things. It's up to us to build Christendom because Europe is lost. Europe is done. And we've got the books and we've got the ideas. We like kind of have we have the textbook version of what it could be. And it could be that under Trump, maybe we have the time to do it, and maybe we have the political coverage, and maybe he becomes Catholic, and then maybe J.D. Vance succeeds him, and you just never know what could happen. Things are so crazy right now. But you're right. We have to think in terms of until the world ends. I think about my family in terms of 1,000 years, and I pray for that every Sunday. May my family be Catholic for 1,000 years. I don't know that we have 1,000 years left. I don't even know if we have 10 years left. I don't even know if we have 2 years left. But I think we have to think in terms of, hey, for the next 1,000 years, we got to build Christendom here in the United States of America.
Well, I can't think of anyone that I'd rather join in you, brother, and all of you crusaders out there to build Christendom, which is why we call the Substack the New Christendom Daily, and why the podcast is the New Christendom Daily, because it is. And you're right, and that's what we aspire to do, and that's what we should do, because it's the right thing to do. And you know what? As long as you conform your mind to that reality, seek you first the kingdom of God, and then all these things in his justice will be added unto you. You've done everything that you can do. I'm about the Padre Pio, St. Padre Pio plan. Pray, hope, and don't worry, brother. And that's really about all I can do is pray, hope, and don't worry. So, for Mike and for Mahgdalen, who's gone, we covered this tonight. None of us wanted to do it, didn't want to be here. I feel like Ted Knight in Caddyshack. I sentenced men like you, younger than you, to the gas chamber. Didn't want to do it. Felt I had to do it. Felt I owed it to him. Well, I felt I owed it to you to at least offer a chance that we would cover some of this tonight, and we did. I don't think our politics are on a good course, though, Mike Parrott. I think our politics are on an absolutely horrid, disastrous course, just like the politics of Europe, are no longer about policy. They're all about social justice or fake senses of justice and all these other sorts of things. This is not politics. This is not what any founding father ever envisioned. This is not what the kings of Europe thought that they were giving up when they were swindled out of their kingships and told that this new democracy thing was going to be. This is not it. This is just a scam job from start to finish. It is Satan writ all over. It is just lies and deceit. And whatever you do, don't be a good Christian. Because if you were, you'd build Christian nations. And that's what they would be. Like they're trying to build in Hungary. And they actually are trying to build one in Hungary. So, having said that, thanks to Mike Parrott, we are going to cover, just for your information, Trad Pat's going to join me somewhere around 1 p.m. or so Central Time. He is going to be live at the RFK announcement, or maybe he's going to be live with Trump. In any way, he is going to be our man on the scene. We're going to find out tomorrow whether or not there's going to be a Trump RFK Jr. alliance. And we'll have the feed, and we'll have someone actually in the crowd in Trad Pat. So we'll look forward to that. Mike, go get your $120 snifter of scotch. I'm gonna go get my $32 variety, and we'll pick all this up tomorrow. His Parrot Talk is at 10. I start tomorrow at 6 a.m. Thank you, brother, for hanging out with me tonight.
God bless you. Thanks for hosting. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. God bless you. And all of you, God bless you and Mary keep you.